Hey, welcome to Community Group tonight, and thank you for making the commitment to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited about it, and I don't know if you realize this or not, but we have lots of groups meeting all over the valley. We actually have more groups than we've ever had before as a church. We have 69 groups and over 900 people participating each and every week. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, we have some great groups, but in every group, there's kind of those awkward people. There's some strange people. Would you raise your hand if you have some people like that in your group?
Wow.
Awkward.
Yeah, that is awkward. That makes me feel awkward right there. Obviously, that's not what it's about. It's truly about just saying, God, what would you have us to do as a church? And because of that, we have some dessert nights that are happening all through the month of February. We already had one last week. Maybe you've attended, but if you haven't yet, we want you to come this week or the following. And the dessert night, really, it's centered around giving some vision of what we believe that God, He's truly calling us to do as a church. So if you want a little bit more information about that, this is the time to come and check that out.
So if you would help us by simply RSVPing, I know groups are assigned for different nights. If you can't make it on that night, just pick one of these Sunday nights through February. But please RSVP, let us know if you're bringing kids. We want to make plans for you. It's a great time to spend together as a group and hear about all that God's doing. Hey, prayer is a huge focus for us as a church, even from the very beginning. In doing so, through our time, we created a prayer journal that we can walk through together. These are available at any service or at the office. We invite you at this point, if you could just download it online, it's right there on our website. We would love to be able to walk through prayer together.
That's awesome. Here's what I know about God. God is never late. He's never early. He's always right on time. And so we believe this is a time, and this is our time as a church.
You know, I've heard that before, Scott, but when I heard it, it was a little bit different. It
Really?
said, God ain't never late. He ain't never early. He always on time.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
That's how I heard
cool.
it.
Yeah,
But anyways,
a little more energy than I
John
had.
and Jen Link, they shared their story this weekend by video. It's amazing to see God's perfect timing in their journey. And I know for a fact that in your group, there's probably quite a few stories just like that. As we've been studying through our time through the book of Nehemiah and Nehemiah's audacious faith, he comes to a point in chapter 2, verse 4. The king says to him, Nehemiah, what are you requesting? So Nehemiah prayed to the God of heaven, and he said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it.
Here's what we know, church. Our time is when we as a church, we narrow our focus and our vision and our mission. As we begin to personalize Nehemiah's journey and his example, we need to make it personal to ourselves in our own life. Truly, what we believe as a church right now is that God is calling every single one of us to do something.
Yeah, God's calling each of us. God specifically called Nehemiah, and he went with audacious faith to the king and made a request of him. What is God calling you to do? What has he placed on your heart individually? Would you take some time as a group to share your individual calling that God is moving on your heart right now? And maybe there's some fear associated with that. Confide in one another, be community, and share this time together.
You know, Keith said in his message this week, he said, we're born with only a couple different fears. One is the fear of falling, and the other is the fear of loud noises. But we know that truly thousands of fears, they exist in our world today, and many of those we've just acquired. So begin unpacking that a little bit as a group. And what are some of your fears? Maybe for some of you, maybe you're like an arachnophobic person. You are scared to death of spiders. My wife, she is scared to death. Whenever we have a spider at our house, she's calling, hey, you need to come home. You need to remove the spider now. Remove meaning kill.
Yes, exactly. Well, why don't you spend some time in prayer as you wrap up your time a little bit later? Would you spend some time specifically praying for one another and calling upon God to bring this light through you, whatever that would happen to be? And please, please be honest with one another. Pray against the active, destructive work that Satan wants to bring in our mind. This is a spiritual battle that's going on. We're praying as we get to spend this time together that you will get to build one another up.
This is what we know as a church. It's our time to build more than a building. We have been called to build lives for such a time as this.
Thank you guys so much for being here with us. Have a great night.